Well, here we are on a Monday night, the 20th of May. We've got severe weather developing across the plains, and tomorrow, Tuesday, could be a big severe weather day in the upper Midwest, and we're going to be covering that. SPC already has a moderate risk on board the day before. And of course, the weather in the east is, well, it's in a state that we really haven't had many opportunities to say the weather's nice and it's warm and it's going to get somewhat summery. And we'll talk all about that, the Memorial Day holiday weekend, which is in flux at the moment, on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. The revolutionary Tempest weather system could be yours, and you'll be on the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. It's easy to install. You can run it on your mobile device. The link is on the description to this podcast. And if you do purchase this or anything else from the Tempest website, please use the coupon code SPRING 2024, because if you don't, you will miss out on
10% being taken off your purchase. Joe,
yes.
yes.
Well, a very good and gracious good evening to you, Mr. Rayo.
Well, a gracious good evening to you and to everybody who's watching right now. It was a lovely day out there today, and it should be another fairly lovely and even warmer day come tomorrow.
People are not used to this.
Yeah, I know. You expect now you're going to have to make payment on today with 3 lousy days coming up, but that's not going to be the story. The story will be that our next chance for any kind of wet weather here in the Northeast will probably not come until sometime later on Thursday or Thursday evening, with the threat or risk of some scattered thunderstorms, which may be a little bit more than just general thunderstorm activity, Joe. I know that the folks over at the Climate Prediction Center have not yet, indicated that there could be severe weather here on Thursday, but I'm thinking that when we get to Thursday, there will be at least a marginal chance for some severe weather, and who knows, maybe even a slight risk of severe weather later Thursday and Thursday night.
Yeah, I'm feeling the marginal risk probably will be up when they do the first forecast for Thursday, which will be tonight, overnight. And I'm thinking they'll probably have a marginal risk, and we'll see what happens when we get there, whether they add a slight risk area. They oftentimes, most times, that's what happens uh, in the Northeast anyway, where they start off with marginal, and by the time you get there, it's a slight risk, or on certain occasions, it's a bit more. However, tomorrow night in the upper Midwest, I think there's going to be a rather robust, I think is probably a good word, widespread severe weather outbreak, and it's going to be in some rather populated areas potentially, Chicago, Milwaukee. Uh, I think the biggest threat's probably going to be in parts of Iowa and in western and northwestern Illinois. That's sort of where uh, the apex of all of this is. But this has been a year where severe weather has been pretty much on the busy side since the end of March.
It has, and especially so during the middle and latter part of April, where we've seen, near record severe weather in terms of not just thunderstorms, but also or tornadic activity, maybe even a few bouts with microbursts and straight line winds, which have carried over now into May. This is one of the busiest storm seasons that we have seen in the springtime in quite a few years.
Oh yeah, and it's second most active tornado season for the month of tornadoes for the month of April. We're the second highest on record, so I don't know what pace we're on here in the month of May. I haven't gone on their board and counted it, but maybe I'll do that tomorrow and see if I can come up with a number. Welcome to everybody tonight on the chat board on this Monday night. Hope you had a great day today and enjoyed the sunshine, and the wind off the ocean kept the temperatures down just a little bit, but still managed to get into the 70s in most places away from the coast. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn your notifications on in case you're lurking in the background, because you don't want to miss the Joe and Joe Weather Show Sunday through Thursdays at 7:35. That's our general regular schedule with the occasional Friday and Saturday when there's a storm around. Get that this weekend is the Memorial Day holiday weekend. However, we're going to be off on Sunday, so after Thursday's show, we will not be back until next Monday. So write that down. And if you like the show, hit the like button because that makes us feel good. It makes us feel like we're accomplishing something, and it makes us feel loved or liked, one way or the other. Um, shall we begin?
I would think so. We don't really have much to talk about locally for the next couple of days in the Northeast, but as you have pointed out, Joe, the middle part of the nation, especially the Midwest, is going to be battening down for some really nasty weather tomorrow.
And on the watches and warnings map tonight, we do have flood watches up for almost cuts the state of Minnesota in half from east to west. The eastern part of Minnesota, all under flood watches, all the counties, and a few of the western counties of Wisconsin, a whole bunch of counties in Iowa, back through Nebraska, southern Nebraska. We also have working severe thunderstorm watches in parts of Nebraska, southeast Wyoming, also in southeastern Michigan, and we actually have a working tornado watch. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Kind of blow my nose. There's a working tornado watch in northeastern Colorado, and still some winter that hasn't died yet, Joe. We've got winter storm warnings up for a bunch of counties in north central Wyoming and south central Montana, and a bunch of winter storm watches in northeastern Idaho and southwest Montana. So we're going to take a look and see what exactly is going on there as far as snow is concerned. But first off, tonight on the satellite loop, I mean, really just a lovely day from Maine down to Florida. We had a beautiful day here in North Georgia, even though they actually earlier forecasts had for possible pop-up showers and thunderstorms late during this afternoon and evening. We've gotten nothing, and that was a big plus because we've had, depending at least where I am, uh, some places have gotten clobbered with rain on a day-to-day basis. Other places, not so much. And thankfully, I'm in the not so much category. I mean, we did get some rain last week, but not as much as others. And we needed time for the ground to dry out because there's mushrooms all over the place. Meanwhile, we've got lightning strikes going on in northwestern Indiana and in western parts of Michigan. You can see the greens and the yellows and reds are flickering there as we've got a frontal boundary that's pushing east, and also seeing the development of some thunderstorms in parts of southeast Wyoming, and also into southeast Nebraska. Now, the severe weather in the plains is going to be more during the overnight, and then we're going to be setting up for tomorrow's big deal. Brandon Doherty hits the tip jar, Joe. Thank you, Brandon. He says you guys are well loved by us weather geeks. Thank you so much. We we love you. We love you guys too. On the radar tonight, uh, now busy line of storms there moving through central Michigan into northern Indiana, and we've got a bunch of severe thunderstorm warnings in play now as this area moves to the east. The watch area is actually in southeastern Michigan, but this line is kind of fired up, uh, maybe a bit stronger than advertised. There's a cell there in southeast Minnesota that's gone to a tornado warning. They popped up a tornado warning there in Minnesota. And then you have these thunderstorms that are bubbling up in northeastern Colorado, southeast Wyoming, and into Nebraska. So this is part of the higher risk zone for tonight that extends throughout much of the western part of the Central Plains and then on up into South Dakota. And you can see the radar is also pretty busy up in Montana, Wyoming, Utah, and over in Idaho. But the east is fine, the south is fine, Florida is looking good. It's clean back through Texas, Joe. And in the Ohio Valley, mostly the radars are absolutely silent tonight, which is a good thing.
Yeah, whenever you get a little bit of a break from, the active weather pattern that we have been seeing in recent days and recent weeks, even if it's just for a day or so, it's good. And this is good. I'm happy to say that, as I mentioned at the top of the show, the Northeast, especially the tri state metropolitan area, now we had a fairly nice weekend. It was dry. We had some cloud cover to deal with, especially on Saturday, but it was dry. And it looks like now, again, we are not likely to see any significant precipitation here until sometime Thursday afternoon or evening with a storm front, a cold front coming in and possibly triggering showers and maybe some strong thunderstorms. One of the reasons why I think it's going to be a threat of strong thunderstorms, Joe, is the fact that we're going to see before the frontal passage, dew point temperatures are going to be at or above 60 here, and then a sharp change to drier, much drier air with dew points dropping into the 40s on Friday. So whenever you see a change like that over a short interval of time, whatever convective activity that occurs usually tends to be more than just, run of the mill. We may see some potentially hefty storm activity locally later on Thursday, but that's later Thursday. That's still what? That's still at least 3 days out. So we've got, until then, 3 days of relative calm and tranquility, at least here in the Northeast, as compared to what's happening or what will be happening in the Midwest. And I might add that the weather system that is going to be in the Midwest is going to be the system that will eventually affect us later on Thursday.
Right, but it's really going to hit its peak strength tomorrow in terms of um, the deepening low that's involved and the strength of the cold front and the extent of the severe thunderstorm. Storm Prediction Center tonight, you can see the working tornado watch in northeast Colorado, the severe thunderstorm watch that's just to the north of that in southeast Wyoming and in parts of western Nebraska. A new severe thunderstorm watch has popped up in eastern Nebraska. And in southeast Michigan, you've got a severe thunderstorm watch going on there. Enhanced risk is being indicated tonight in parts of Kansas, actually right near the Nebraska border, is you have a 5% tornado risk that goes into northeast Colorado and southwest Nebraska. It's mostly 2 to 5%. We mentioned yesterday that in spite of the enhanced risk, you usually see maybe a small 10% area, but you're not seeing that tonight. You're going to see it tomorrow with the from the Storm Prediction Center here. And as we go to tomorrow, this is there it goes. They have added today, Joe, a moderate risk in southeast Iowa, western Illinois. And there's a fairly large area of enhanced risk that goes all the way up into Wisconsin, including Chicago and Milwaukee, southeastern Minnesota, the rest of Iowa, except the Northwest, which is at a slight risk, enhanced risk for northern and central New Missouri, slight risk going down into Oklahoma. And this comes with a rather robust area of 10%, and it's hatched, which means that there's an EF2 to EF5 tornado risk in part of that enhanced area and definitely in the moderate risk zone.
Not something you want to fool around with. I mean, it's any even an EF0 to me is more than enough for more than a handful. But when you start talking about those numbers going up into threes and fours and even fives, that's something that you want to stay clear from. Of course, you can't stay clear from if you are a resident of that zone of 10%. I mean, and your home happens to be there. What can you do? You can't move the house. You just have to sit, watch, and hope that the worst of this is going to bypass your area. But it is something that they'll certainly be looking at very carefully over the next 24 hours out there in the Midwest United States.
Well, I'm bringing up the upper air just to show everybody what's going on tonight. And you can see there's a strong shortwave that I drew in from western Wyoming down to the Baja Peninsula of California. And that is swinging east. This is for 1 a.m. So that's impacting thunderstorms tonight that are going to be developing and already are developing northeastern Colorado, northwest Kansas, into Nebraska, southern parts of South Dakota, southeast Wyoming. Now, uh, I've always said the thing to pay attention to with severe weather is when you see these short waves strengthen going in negative tilt mode. And that's exactly what's happening here for tomorrow. the short wave goes into this negative tilt. We have an upper low that forms on the Canada side, just north of the North Dakota Montana state line. And you can see that's a rather sharp, almost V shaped trough that is swinging around and lifting up to the north. So if this verifies, this is for tomorrow evening, everybody ahead of that shortwave axis, and I'm going to draw it in again. So, if you're in this zone here, uh, ahead of it, this is where, and this is a very broad brush view. SPC gets into, much better specifics than we can here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show because that's SPC's, their specialization is severe weather. But this is the idea of what's going on with the dynamics. Anytime you see the upper air is strengthening, uh, in a situation like this, you're going to have severe weather risk. And in this case, Joe, it's that's a sharp trough, and I would not be surprised if we see a lot of severe thunderstorm warning and tornado warnings out tomorrow night in the Midwest.
That's going to be an active night. I can just by looking at that, I can tell you it's te- as my grandfather used to say, it's telegraphing you what is in store for 24 hours from now, and that certainly seems to indicate, it's not Kansas, it's not Oklahoma, Texas, or Nebraska. It's Iowa, it's Minnesota, it is parts of Wisconsin that looks like will be in the crosshairs tomorrow night for severe weather and some not just regular severe weather. I mean, this looks like one that's going to be loaded for bear.
David Filler, thanks for hitting super chat tonight. I know you're ready for beach weather, but it's a little early with the ocean as cold as it is. Um, Meanwhile, the other thing to note here is this: as this upper low now goes up into Canada, it probably opens up the door for some severe weather on Wednesday, and I would probably draw it in. This is for Wednesday evening. You probably would have an area of severe weather that runs northeast southwest ahead of a cold front. Now, all the energy is going way up to the north, so by the time that we're not going to see a robust cold front like going to see that they're going to see tomorrow moving through the Midwest. You see the upper low takes a track way to the north. Now there's a little kink in the flow and a cold front with that's going to be maybe setting off some scattered showers and storms later Thursday and Thursday night. I think, my early guess is, I'm thinking, as I said, marginal risk, for isolated severe thunderstorms. I think that's a good way to go. Maybe it goes to a slight risk in some places by the time we get to Thursday.
I would agree. I would be very surprised, Joe, if we did not have at least a risk, some kind of a risk for severe weather here in the Northeast on Thursday. Again, mainly late in the day or evening. At least a marginal, maybe even a slight chance. I don't think we're going to go beyond slight. In other words, I don't think we'll hit enhanced, but I certainly would think there's going to be more than just general thunderstorm coverage here in the Northeast on Thursday.
By the way, I should mention also tomorrow in northeastern New York, northern, central and northern Vermont, central and northern New Hampshire, and much of interior Maine under a marginal risk for severe weather tomorrow. So they're thinking maybe some isolated severe thunderstorms there as maybe a bit of a warm front goes by in to the north. And then here's that setup for Wednesday where we have marginal risk in western New York, and then it becomes a slight risk in Ohio, goes southwestward through central and southern Indiana, northwestern Kentucky, southern Illinois, southern Missouri, northwest Tennessee, much of Arkansas, into northeast and north central Texas and southeast Oklahoma. Now, on day 4, we don't have anything indicated in the east. They do have another area of possible slight risk for Oklahoma, Arkansas, and northeastern Texas, and a small portion of northwest Louisiana. But tomorrow morning, when you wake up and you check SPC, they're going to have the Thursday forecast. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. Just a brief shout out to them because they do such a terrific job. They really have done a very great. I think they always have done a very good job, but they've been exceptional. I think this severe weather season with some of these calls and how accurate they've been in outlining the areas of greatest risks. Uh, they pretty much have caught every event that's gone on.
And they, by this time, they must be very, very tired.
Oh, I would imagine. WPC's rainfall forecast is excessive up in Minnesota, Iowa, western Wisconsin, northeast Nebraska, also in southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, eastern Oklahoma, western Tennessee, western Kentucky, and southern Illinois. Several inches in the next 7 days. Three-quarters of an inch to pockets of an inch and a half that extended to Virginia and North Carolina, but much of the Northeast, except for northern Maine, much of the Northeast is a tenth to a quarter of an inch. So even if these thunderstorms and showers that play through on Thursday, they're not seeming to amount to much. And then, of course, this takes us through Monday night. So this includes the Memorial Day holiday weekend. So in terms of total precip, they're not looking for a whole lot. And we're also seeing some robust precip across Montana and on up into the Pacific Northwest of three-quarters of an inch to an inch and a half in some places. I want to go to, let me go bring up WPC's homepage here and let's see what they're doing. I'm kind of curious about those winter storm warnings. First off, before we do that, uh, here's the flash flood risks in the flood watch areas that they have, with a slight risk there in western Iowa and northeastern Nebraska for tonight and tomorrow. We're looking at a large slight risk area in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and northeast Iowa, and marginal risk that goes down into eastern Oklahoma. And then on day three, it's a slight risk from eastern Oklahoma, extreme northeast Texas, northeastward into southern Illinois, western Kentucky, and western Tennessee. Now let's go back to um, the home page here. Let me get rid of this. Let's go back to the home page and we have a heavy snow on the heavy snow map just to see what's going on. I just always like to you look at the probability of two. I mean, it's not a lot here that we're looking at in the next 72 hours, but you can see where they have pockets here of high probabilities for at least two in western. All right, hold on. Let me go to 72 hours because this is just 24. Let me change that to 72. Okay, so that's a little more widespread and impressive. So this is the probability of at least two, Joe. Northwest Wyoming, Northeast Idaho, Southwest Montana. You've got some fairly high, 80% or higher probabilities for at least two. And if we go to four, you have a large areas of 50% or higher for at least four. So I guess some places are going to get, they're getting some almost Memorial Day weekend snow we're talking about here. Almost, but not quite, because this is for tonight to through Thursday night.
I was looking on my Facebook memories earlier today, and I wish I had taken note. I'm trying to call it up right now. But several years ago, on this day, Denver, Colorado, and the Mets were playing at that time. They were playing the Colorado Rockies, and there was a snowstorm on this day. I'm trying to get the date here if I can find my memories page and bring it up. But it was something like 3 or 4 years ago. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. 2022 was only 2 years ago. I said, meet the Mets in the snow. NOAA's probability snow map. Of course, it's May 20th, so you wouldn't expect to see a forecast of the white stuff anywhere. But nevertheless, if you look at the state of Colorado, you'll see a red blotch roughly centered on the mile-high city of Denver. And if you live anywhere within that red zone, there was at least a 70% probability, this is 2 years ago on this day, that by daybreak tomorrow morning you would have found at least 8 inches of heavy, wet snow accumulation, chiefly on colder surfaces like car tops and tree branches and grassy surfaces, and also what you'd find on a baseball field. And the Mets were supposed to play the Colorado Rockies at Coors Field that very night. No. They were scheduled to play tomorrow as well. No. And what is amazing, now this blows your mind, Joe. This is why we say that Denver is a crazy place to forecast. 2 years ago, May 20th, 2022, 8 inches of snow, 8 inches of heavy, wet snow expected. What was amazing is that the day before, temperatures in the Denver area were close to 90 degrees.
Nice.
Tonight through tomorrow night, they'll be only in the 30s, more appropriate for a Broncos Jet football game as opposed to a Rockies Mets baseball game. And again, that was only 2 years ago
Yeah.
in Denver,
Lot,
Colorado in
you got a
2020.
deep you got a deep trough in the west, and this is all setting up for that. That's why you can actually there's a strong upper low that drops down into Washington and Oregon, and then swings across Idaho and into Montana Wednesday night into Thursday night. So it's probably under the track of that upper low that we're seeing some of the heavier snowfalls and why those areas are under winter storm warnings. Now, on the long range, as we go into the weekend, it's not a perfect flow here this weekend. It looks like little kinks, even though we're mostly in a ridge position here in the east because of the trough in the west. There actually are a couple of little ripples in the flow that are moving along. This is Saturday morning. There's a short wave there from central Pennsylvania down to the Carolinas. There's another kink in Missouri down into Louisiana. The southwest flow that's kind of picking out these little impulses of energy, and this is something that we're going to have to watch for the weekend. It doesn't mean that we're talking on washouts here, but it might not be picture perfect. Let's put it that way. And there probably will be some chances for showers to throw in there. We've been kind of going back and forth about this, whether to be optimistic or not, or just, is it going to be 2 out of 3 days okay, and one day with the problem? But now, you look at the way the models are playing on this. If these weak systems coming out of the southwest are correct, then you almost have to toss in the chance that there could be a shower on any of the 3 days, if not all of them. Although it could also be a situation, Joe, that except for maybe late Monday, whatever happens Friday night, Saturday, and then maybe again on Sunday, will be a case where some people get them and most people don't.
Well, it isn't it always the case whenever we get close to an important holiday weekend, and of course this is the first of the big three, that there's always some uncertainties, and I'm sure that as we progress through this week, we'll have a better handle as to what is going to happen, particularly so on Thursday, because Thursday, of course, will perhaps be right in the thick of things with severe weather here in the Northeast, but hopefully after that, things will become clearer and more focused, and we'll be able to tell what exactly will be transpiring for Getaway Friday on into Saturday, Sunday, and Memorial Day Monday.
So I've pulled up the HRRR model, and we can see what's going to happen tomorrow. Actually, we can also see what's going on tonight. There's on the lower left, there's a 995 low in northeastern Colorado, and you can see how the model thinks the radar is going to look like with some heavy thunderstorms during the overnight, particularly across parts of southern Kansas. And then you can see how it all bubbles up starting tomorrow morning in central and northern Iowa. And then as we go through the day, that low starts to run up to the northeast, the northeast, and strengthens. The pressure goes from about a 95-ish low down to into the 980s, down to a 986 low. That's not too shabby for this time of year. That's pretty strong. That's centered right on the Iowa-Minnesota border by tomorrow evening, and you can see the line of thunderstorms, both what's being indicated rotating around the low, but then you have this line that runs across Wisconsin, western Wisconsin, coming into western Illinois, and eastern Iowa, western Illinois into Missouri, and then continues eastward. By 10 p.m., there's a ripping line going through Chicago and Milwaukee here as the low gets down to a 983 in northwest Wisconsin. That is impressive for what will now be, this is Thursday, the 22nd. So we're talking about the last 10 days in May to have a 983 low in northwest Wisconsin that's really strong.
No question. Absolutely no question. Let me just hang on for one moment here, and I'll have the answer for you. What was it, Joe? A 980, 983?
983. Yeah, that's the lowest it gets, 983, 982 eventually, but it gets 983, 982, somewhere in there.
982 would be the equivalent on your barometer of your aneroid barometer that's hanging up in the wall in your home, office, or school. 982 millibars is 29 inches straight, 29 inches of mercury.
Oh,
That's pretty damn low.
it really is. And then, of course, on Wednesday, we get these storms that form from Ohio southwest into Texas. And now we're back to the GFS here. I'm showing you what the GFS representation of the radar is. And then on Thursday, with the front near. Now they've got the GFS has some showers and a couple of thunderstorms scattered around Wednesday evening in northeast PA up into the Catskills. And then it's got, a little bit of leftover shower activity early morning hours along the New Jersey coast and in parts of North Jersey. And then, that to me is probably a warm front of some sort that goes by. Then you got the cold front that comes through later in the day. That's going to be your dew points. That's when your dew points will shoot up as that first ripple goes by. And then, of course, you got the cold front, and you can see that the model does generate some heavier cells here later Thursday afternoon into Thursday evening across, Pennsylvania, southeast New York, southern New England, and they just move on through all the way down into southeast Virginia. So that's going to be, your system there. And of course, then as we head toward the Memorial Day weekend, I mean, Friday, there's one of these ripples that's coming out. You can see it's got some showers in Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia Friday afternoon. By Friday evening, it sort of arced from Maryland northwestward into northeast Ohio with some heavier precip in central Virginia. But the northeast at this point is pretty quiet. So the day side Friday should be okay. But it does bring some showers Friday night into Saturday afternoon across, eastern Pennsylvania to southeast New England. And then that goes out. And then there's another little ripple that's got some showers Saturday night in Maryland, but those disappear. Sunday, some very light scattered stuff inland, heavier stuff in Virginia, Kentucky, and points south. And then you've got a frontal system that approaches on Monday with Memorial Day with some showers and storms. So, I mean, again, it doesn't look like we're talking whole day rains here, but we are talking about the potential for some issues here over the weekend on at least two of the days and possibly all three. But we'll say Sunday's probably the one day, at least from what we're seeing right now, that might be the one day that will be okay. But the other 2 days, I mean, I do not like these holiday weekends because everybody wants a 3 day perfect weekend. And given that I think it's what 15 weekends in a row that we've seen some rain on one or two or both days, um, you know, it's time for that streak to come to an end soon.
Well, I'll tell you that from my perspective, that we might on Friday still have some lingering precipitation, lingering shower activity from whatever we get for later Thursday into Thursday night. Then that should dry out. High pressure is going to try its best to build into the area and suppress whatever rain that we may see over the weekend. However, while it may suppress precipitation, it may not necessarily suppress cloud cover. We may have more
Right.
cloud to deal with than what a lot of people would like to see over the weekend. So if we do end up with no precip Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, it may still turn out to be somewhat, I won't say drab, but probably more clouds than sun. The ridge itself, the high pressure ridge that's trying to build in, may get dirtied up a bit, so to speak, by some overrunning moisture. And as you point out, Joe, some of that moisture, especially, will be evident in places to the south and to the west of the immediate New York City metropolitan area. That's where we may see, especially, the chance for some showers over the upcoming weekend. But again, still plenty of time to work things out. We'll have a better handle on this again, I'm sure Wednesday and especially Thursday. A lot of what's going to happen over the weekend is going to be dependent upon exactly what hits us here on Thursday. That weather front, that cold front, working its way across the state of New York during Thursday. And actually, that's the first of two fronts. The first front may be responsible later Thursday and Thursday night for showery and thundery weather, but it may wait until a secondary front comes through to drop the dew points significantly, either very late Thursday night or during the day on Friday. And then hopefully after that, we'll be protected from any real nasty or unsettled conditions for the weekend. But we'll see.
That we will. And on that note, I'm bringing up Briller Jeopardy tonight. Are we all set to play?
I'm ready.
You ready? So we're on this theme is average high temperatures in the May for the following 5 cities, and we're going to begin tonight with Memphis, Tennessee.
Memphis,
Memphis.
Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis, Tennessee. How about 78?
Not a bad guess. A smidge low. A smidge. Um, Tyler Fienga is 79. Northern Grace is very close at 81. And Prime Minister Reuben Fairchild very close in the other direction at 83. So you know what that means, Joe.
It means probably 82.
And that 82 is correct. 82, Tyler Fienga, thank you. And Patrick Darcy. Next is Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. How about 73?
Um, a little too high. A little too high. Tyler Fienga, you're in snake country at 60. Well, you're not quite snake country, but close, 67. Rich Rothmansky and Patrick Darcy are in snake country at 68. And Bella Lugrisi gets it at 69. 69. So does Vincent Croce, 69. New Orleans.
New
No,
Orleans.
no, no,
Ah,
no, 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 no. New Orleans.
okay.
Not New Orleans. It's New Orleans.
I'm only imitating what Mr. Bunny said on one of those cartoons. I think it was the one with the penguin with the big top hat.
Right.
This New Orleans. I think I'm going to stick around for the Matty Grass.
The Matty Grass, yes.
How about 82?
Um, a smidge too low. Rich Rothmansky, Miss Fowlerite, William Uber, uh, all of them saying 85, and all of them are correct. 85. New York City at Le Parc des Centrales.
Prime Minister Reuben Fairchild. Do you guys watch any show made after 1980?
I know, right? Um, uh, Le Parc des Centrales, folks, for New York City.
how about
Mayha.
how about 74?
A little too high. Patrick Darcy bangs it though at 71.
Wow.
71. And a lot of people are guessing around 72-ish. Good guesses. A few of you are on the high side, but not terribly high. And last tonight is Orlando, Florida. Orlando, Florida.
Orlando. How about 80, 83?
Oh, that's too low, Joe. Too low.
Oh,
Northern Grace, Rich Rothmansky, Miss Fowlerite, and Prime Minister Reuben Fairchild, all nailing Orlando at 88. 88 is the high for Orlando.
WCBS Weather Time, 88.
Right. Set your time to WCBS. Four tones will follow. The fourth and loudest one marks the exact time.
Boom.
They don't do that anymore, do they?
No, they don't.
No. They
That's
should they should do like one day just do sort of a nostalgia broadcast with all the old tones and things.
well, but when you listen to CBS Radio when they on the hour, the tone that you hear has been dinging for God knows how many years.
Right. Oh, that tone is the same?
No, it's not the same, but but I can even remember when they used that tone on television. Now on television they don't use anything anymore.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
it's 8 o'clock. Boom, whatever that is.
Yeah,
Whatever they.
Vincent Croce says 1010 Win still does that fake ticker machine.
Yeah.
Hold some actually some the way they do that, Vincent, is they have somebody who rotating 8-hour shifts with a person holding a typewriter cradled in his arm, and they just hit the same key.
Oh God.
Oh, good Lord. All right, the Joe and Joe Weather Show, as always, brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the description of this podcast. Use the coupon code 20 Spring 2024 because if you do, you will get.
You will get, if you do use that code, 10% off, but only if you use that code.
That's right. Okay, so tomorrow night, back at the usual time, 7:30, when we'll probably be doing live coverage of severe weather that's going to be sweeping across the Midwest. Let's keep our fingers crossed that it's comes in, you know, less robust than forecasts. As I always say, when it comes to severe weather, those are the kind of forecasts you really don't want them to verify.
Yeah.
But we'll be handling it here tomorrow night. Bye bye.
And we thank Brendan Doherty and David Fuller for hitting the tip jar tonight. Thank you, gentlemen.
Nighty night.
Good night.